Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Gallagher, and today we're going to learn how to solve a system of equations using substitution. So let's review substitution. In the example, it says evaluate the expression y equals x plus 6 if x equals 10. So how do we solve for y? We would substitute 10 for x. We would substitute or replace 10 for x. So here you have x equals 10. So now you're going to replace your x value at 10. So you have y equals 10 plus 6. And 10 plus 6 equals 16. Therefore, y equals 16. So the substitution method is another method for solving a system of equations. And there's 4 steps to solve a system of equations using substitution. Step 1. You want to substitute the expression for either x or y in the other linear equation. So step 1, we want to substitute the expression for either x or y in the other linear equation. Step 2, you want to solve for that variable. So step 2, you want to solve for that variable. Step 3, you want to then substitute the answer to solve for the other variable. So step 3, you want to then substitute the answer that you got in step 2 to solve for the other variable. And then our last step is you want to put x and y into a coordinate as your final answer. So step 4, we're going to put x and y into a coordinate, xy, as the final answer. Now let's do some examples together. So in directions it states, solve the systems of equations by substitution. And you have y equals x minus 2. And then we have 2x plus 2y equals 4. And we know here that y equals x minus 2. So what you're going to do here is you're going to replace x minus 2 for your y value. And we're going to rewrite it. So you're going to say 2x plus 2 times, we know our y value is x minus 2, so you're going to plug that in right here. You're going to replace it. X minus 2 equals 4. And that is your first step. Substitute the expression for either x or y in the other linear equation. Now step 2, we're going to solve. So you have 2x plus, we have to distribute 2 times x, which gives us 2x, and then 2 times a negative 2, which gives us a negative 4, and that equals 4. Our next step, we want to combine our like terms, which is 2x plus 2x, and that gives us 4x minus 4 equals 4. And now you have a two-step equation here. So our next step is to undo subtraction by adding it to both sides. We're going to add 4. And we have 4x. 4 plus 4 equals 8. Last step is to divide. 4's cancel. Therefore, x equals 8 divided by 4 gives us 2. So my x value is equal to 2. So we just did step 2, solve for that variable. Step 3 is then substitute the answer to solve for the other variable. Now you can substitute this answer, which is x equals 2, into either equation, the first equation or the second equation. Now I'm going to think to myself, what equation looks easier to solve? Which equation looks easier to replace x equals 2 to find your y? Well, to me, equation 1. Equation 1 says y equals x minus 2. And we just solve for my x. My x is equal to 2. So now replace that with y equals 2 minus 2. And 2 minus 2 equals 0. Therefore, y equals 0. And we just did step 3. Our last step is to put the final answer into a coordinate x, y. So you have your coordinate x, y. And our x value we found was 2. So your x value is 2. And our y value we found was 0. So your y value is 0. Therefore, your answer is 2, 0. Let's do another example together. So let's look at our second problem. Our first equation states x equals negative 4y minus 4. And our second equation is 3x plus 5y equals 2. Notice that we know what x equals. X equals negative 4y minus 4. Therefore, you're going to replace your x value right here with that expression. So you're going to rewrite your second equation, replacing that expression with x. So 3 times, what does x equal? Negative 4y minus 4. So negative 4y minus 4 plus, you're going to rewrite the rest of the equation, 5y equals 2. And now we're going to solve for y. Okay, our first step was to substitute the expression for either x or y in the other linear equation. Our first step, we want to distribute the 3. So 3 times negative 4y is negative 12y. And 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And we're going to bring down plus 5y equals 2. Your next step is to combine your like terms. So negative 12y plus 5y is going to give us a negative 7y minus 12 equals 2. You have a two-step equation, so you're going to add 12 to both sides when you like terms together. So you're going to undo it. So you have negative 7y equals 14. Divide both sides by negative 7, and y equals negative 2. So you found your first variable. Now we found our first variable, we want to plug it into another equation to solve for our second variable. And you want to think to yourself, which equation looks easier to solve? We have x equals negative 4y minus 4, or 3x plus 5y equals 2. Here it just says x equals negative 4y minus 4, so that one's a little easier to solve. So x equals negative 4y minus 4. And we found that y equals negative 2. So we're going to replace it with x equals negative 4 times the negative 2 that we found minus 4. X equals a negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. And then x equals 8 minus 4 is 4. So x equals 4. Your last step is to write your coordinate into an x, y as your final answer. So my x value we found was 4. And our y value we found was negative 2. So our final answer is 4, negative 2. Okay, so now let's look at some special cases when answering system of equations by substitution. All right, so we have in example 3, y equals negative 3x plus 4 and 6x plus 2y equals 7. So our first step is we want to substitute negative 3x plus 4 into our y value. So we have 6x plus 2 times the expression, because we're replacing the expression with y, negative 3x plus 4 equals 7. So our next step, bring down our 6x, and we want to now distribute 2 times negative 3x and 2 times a positive 4. So that gives us negative 6x. 2 times 4 is a positive 8, and that equals 7. Our next step is to combine our like terms. So we have 6x minus 6x, and we have 6x minus 6x, that equals 0. So it cancels out. So we're left with 8 equals 7. And does 8 ever equal 7? No, they're not equal to each other. 8 and 7 are not equal to each other. So when it does not equal each other, your answer is going to be no solution. Your answer is no solution. That means there is no x or y coordinate that satisfies both of these equations. Let's look at another special case of system of equations. So in number 4, it says y equals 3x minus 6, and then negative 3x plus y equals negative 6. Our first step is we want to substitute this expression, 3x minus 6, into our y value. So let's rewrite it. Our second equation, replacing our y. So negative 3x plus 3x minus 6 equals negative 6. Our next step is to combine our like terms. So our like terms are negative 3x plus 3x. These cancel. So now we're left with negative 6 equals negative 6. And now, what do you notice here? They are equal to each other. Okay, they are equal to each other. Whenever they're equal to each other, this is essentially the same equation. So it's the same equation, just written out two different ways. So whenever they're equal in the same equation, your answer is infinitely many solutions. So your answer would be infinitely many solutions. That means whatever you put in for x and y, no matter what number it is, it'll always be equal to each other. So now what I'd like you to do is the u trisection. Problems 1 and 2, and we will discuss that in class tomorrow. You do not need to do page 4. Page 4 is to be completed in class tomorrow. Thank you.